Breaking news! Another washed up, aged, useless, and discarded celebrity from the 90s has inched her way back into the news cycle. Yes, of course, I'm talking about what you've been hearing on the news cycles for the last 24 hours. Sinead O'Connor has converted to Islam. That's right, Sinead O'Connor, the one-hit wonder from the 90s, who got famous by singing a song that she herself did not write. That's right, little known fact, Prince actually wrote that song. Now, we all loved it because she was the cute, bald-headed lady, right? She was real pretty in that video. What was that, 1991, 92, something like that, 1990? It's a long-ass time ago. And believe me, that lady has aged in dog years. Doggy. She's a mutt. But she has come out and announced that she has converted to Islam. Now, this is very similar to like when you meet somebody and they introduce themselves, but before they tell you their name, they're like, "Oh, hello, my name is, I'm an atheist, John Smith. Hi, my name is, I'm a vegan and I do CrossFit, John Smith." It's that need, like, oh, let me tell you how virtuous I am. I don't eat animals. I do CrossFit. I'm an atheist. Right? It's like that old joke goes, like, you know, how can you tell if somebody's an atheist or a vegan? Don't worry, they will effing tell you. Ugh. It's like, oh, I can't wait to tell you how virtuous I am. I converted to Islam. Like the lady who's famous for ripping up the picture of the Pope on Saturday Night Live, that lady. I'm so against organized religion. I'm so enlightened. That lady, yeah. She's now converted to Islam or veganism, or she's doing CrossFit or whatever. No, she came out and she said she converted to Islam. Now there's a really bizarre thing that happens in, well, it's happening all over the Western world, but in England, there's something very bizarre happening where it's like these useless people, and it's always like people who are on welfare and you know don't work, and typically women. But it's this bizarre thing. I was in Spain. I was walking a section of the Camino. The section I was walking of the Camino de Santiago was through Barcelona, and I met this group of people who had just came back from a large festival. It's like a Burning Man festival, only it's in Europe. And I met these people, and I was talking to this lady. She was there like on a lot of drugs with her children, which I found like fascinating to begin with. It's like, oh, you're going around the world doing drugs with your kids. And then she immediately, like literally within maybe 5 minutes of meeting these people, maybe 10 minutes, she starts telling me, she's a white lady, she starts telling me about how many black people she's had as boyfriends. Like how many black people she's had sex with. And it's just like, whoa, lady, this is none of my business. I don't care about your sex life. And it's like, she just had this need to like, let me know right away. Like, oh, I sleep with black people. It's like, okay, good for you, right? But the fact that you need to tell me about it, you need to tell a perfect stranger about it, that's gross. Right, her name, oh God, what was her name? Anyways, she, and then, you know, I continued talking with her. Turns out, you know, her ex-husband, who she divorced and was, you know, taking to the ringer, you know, making this guy pay all this money, was funding her trip around the world with her kids doing drugs. Right, just another like weird social life. But anyway, Sinead O'Connor. Now here's this lady. It's like, lady, you've not been famous for almost 30 years. And I talked about this before, like the effect of fame, right? If you throw it away, like if you're famous and you put it down and you throw it away, you'll be okay. But if they take it away from you, it's like it causes these people to like continue to try to be famous. Like Alyssa Milano, it's like, lady, you were like, we did not watch Who's the Boss so that we could watch you, sweetheart. We watched that show to watch Tony Danza crack wise. You know what I mean? Like, we did not watch you in Commando with Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know, the one movie that you were in. We weren't watching that movie to watch your stylistic acting. Miss Milano. We were there to watch Arnold Schwarzenegger. Nobody cares about you. Oh, but you did have that show. What was it, Charmed? Like, yeah, you were very popular amongst 13 to 17-year-old girls. Like, we don't care about you anymore, Alyssa Milano. You're old and gross. And now you want to tell us about your politics? Nobody cares, Miss Milano. You've been the backup singer your entire life. You've been the backup singer. And now that you're no longer famous, you'll do anything to just have that spotlight on you again, that warm spotlight. Everybody's looking at me. So Sinead O'Connor announces to the world, I've converted to Islam. Nobody cares, Sinead. Nobody cares. Why don't you go tear up some pictures of Muhammad or whatever? Nobody cares about what you think. We didn't care then. We just thought you were kind of cute with your bald head. But that was 30 years ago. Now you look like chewed up bubblegum. Furthermore, like, what happened? Was Wilson not available? Could you not find Tiffany singing at the mall? Oh God, please tell me one of you guys gets that reference. This is fame. This is the problem with fame. In the 80s, there was this girl named Tiffany, and she could carry a tune. And she was kind of cute. And she sang this song from like the 50s called I Think We're Alone Now. I think we're alone now. Dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee. Wasn't even her own song. She didn't write that song. She was a one-hit wonder, just like Sinead O'Connor. She made a little bit of money. She got a little bit of fame. She was on MTV for, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks, something like that. Who knows? All right? She she was probably an opening act for some concerts, made some money. And then all of a sudden it was just like poof. Like, you are talentless. You can't write your own music. You're not Taylor Swift, right? You can't write your own songs. You can't keep this machine going, so off you go. But she needed to be famous so badly. It's one of the most compelling tragedies, like a story of a tragic human life. This lady took all of the money that she made. I can't imagine it was very much, but probably a few $100,000, maybe a couple of million, who knows? But she took all of her money in her quest for fame, since no other recording studios would sign her after her one-hit wonder. She bought a tour bus and paid a bunch of people, like roadies, and she went from town to town in shopping malls and did free concerts. She wanted to be famous so bad that she was like singing for free in shopping malls with cameras and microphones and like all this stuff. It was really bizarre. She pissed through all of her money. That's what fame does to people. Like you take like guys like Robert Redford, who I know is a bedwetting liberal, but like he got super famous and super rich, and you know what he did? He threw it away. Just said, you know what? I'm going to buy a gigantic portion of the state of Utah, and I'm going to move my family out there. I don't want to be around famous people or rich people. I just want to be out in the woods with my family. It's like, that's the move right there, Mr. Redford. That's it. I know he's come out recently and said some stupid things, but whatever. That's, like, if you ever have the unfortunate occurrence of becoming famous, just get out. Get out. Those people are just, it gives these people like this such a weird perception of themselves, like they're important. And it's like, dude, you're not important. Sinead O'Connor, nobody cares. No, do whatever you want to do. Go join Scientology, go join Islam, go join the YMCA. Nobody gives a shit, and we haven't for 30 years, lady. Ugh. I strongly recommend, this is, okay. Like one of the things I like to do is try to point you out to things on social media that I like, that I think that you'll like, right? Because nobody can ingest it all. It's too much stuff. But there's a new Fleckus Talks, and you know what? Pretty much anytime that guy releases something, I'm going to promote it, because Fleckus was at the Turning Point event, with Charlie Kirk and all that, and he's out there interviewing people. Now this is the reason I want you to watch this. Now again, going back to the Tiffany thing. take away the lady, right? Take Tiffany out of that story, right? Take the song out of that story and take all the other factors out of that story. And just what you're left with is just behavior. Just bizarre, weird. It's almost like other dimensional or otherworldly. It's just weird behavior, right? Like take all the factors out of it, and what are you left with is just the behavior. It's bizarre. So I want you to go on to this new Fleckus video, because he's interviewing people, and just like every other time, he's done these things where he just goes out to protests and he just starts talking to people. And he's mentioned this a number of times in interviews, and I believe him, is that he says, like, look, I don't edit this. Like, I edit for time, but if somebody talks to me, they are going in the reel. Like, for every person that talks to me, you see it. I don't edit people out. I'm not just showing you one side of what I get. It's like, I go to these things, I talk to as many people as will talk to me, and for the people that talk to me, they go on the show, right? Now, what I'm about to get into is like the importance of like knowing what you know. If you don't know something, just say it, right? Just say, I don't know. I'm not. There was to get into Bible stuff. There was a period where Peter, the Apostle Peter and his crew. I can't remember who else was there, but they were preaching about Jesus and the things that Jesus had taught about, and the prophecies that Jesus talked about, and Mosaic law and all this other stuff. Like they were preaching the relevance of the Old Testament as it applied to Jesus. And so some of the other, like the Jewish hierarchy, like the priests and the Pharisees and the Sadducees, they came up and they rebuked Peter and his men, and they said to the crowd, they said, don't listen to these people, because they are, the word they used is idiot. These people are idiots. Don't listen to them, right? And it's Peter's response that I'm trying to get to. And Peter looks up over the crowd and he says to the religious hierarchy, he says, yes, that's exactly why we're qualified to talk about that, because we are idiots, right? And that word idiot, idiotes in the Greek, and that's how it's actually written in the book. That word idiot, what it means is somebody who is not educated, right? What Peter was saying is like the fact that I'm not a religious scholar is what qualifies me to talk about this, because you are a religious scholar and you're just some old grumpy person that, like you're useless. You've educated yourself into imbecility. And so, idiotes, right? Idiots. Yes, we're idiots. But what I'm getting at is understand what you understand. Like, know what you know and know what you don't know. It's important. And if you don't know something, just come out with it. Like, yeah, I don't really, I'm not really that, if you ask me about, brain surgery, I'm going to be like, I can't talk about that, because when it comes to that, I'm an idiot. I'm not educated in that. I don't know, right? But I know enough to preach the good gospel of Ben Carson, right? The world's foremost authority on pediatric neurology, pediatric brain surgery. It's like, that's why I'm able to say that Ben Carson is the man that you want to go see, should you ever have conjoined twins at the brain. I know just enough to know that guy is the guy that you want to be around, you know what I mean? And if people came up and said, don't listen to Pete Dobson talk about Ben Carson, he's an idiot, I would say, well, that's precisely why you need to listen to me, is because I don't know. Because I'm not educated on this, but that guy is. He is the smartest man on the planet when it comes to separating babies who are joined at the brain. You know what I mean? And so when you watch Fleckus talks, it's bizarre. It's otherworldly. Take all the factors out of it. Take the people out of it, right? Take the cause out of it. Take Charlie Kirk out of it. Take the Republican versus Democrat and the liberal versus the conservative. Take all that stuff out of it until you're just left with the behavior. And you will see what I'm talking about. It's bizarre. Every time Fleckis gets one of these people on, it's every time. I can't, listen, correct me if I'm wrong. I might be wrong, but I've watched everything that Fleckis has put out, and it's every single time these people, and he'll just ask them like there's all these people that are chanting like, you know, hey, hey, ho, ho, Charlie Kirk has got to go, right? He'll go up to these people and he'll be like, well, so what did Charlie Kirk say? Well, I don't know. I heard my friends told me that he's part of the KKK, right? By the way, Fleckis, if you're watching this, the next time somebody says KKK to you, ask them, what does KKK mean? That's like, in baseball, that means you've struck people out 3 times. What does KKK mean? Like, seriously, and offer them money if they can come up with Ku Klux Klan. And if they say Klu Klux Klan, then you don't have to give them the money. Like, I would, based on your work, sir, I would venture a wager saying these people, when they say KKK, like, they have no idea what those letters stand for or where it comes from or anything like that. Like, oh, KKK, that sounds terrible. What is that? Just ask them. Because these people don't know any, it's weird. And it's not just this video, although you should watch, if you've never watched a Fleckis Talks video, please, come on, go watch this one. Look at the behavior of these people. They're out there protesting. They're out there, there's people acting violently that are on that side of the aisle. There's people that are, they're indignant and they're very angry. They're very, like, they are legitimately feeling whatever chemical goes through your body when you're angry. That's legitimately what's going through these people's bodies. They're very angry. And then when Fleckis goes up to him and says, what are you angry about? They go mute. And then because Fleckis has done so many videos now, people come up to those people and say, don't talk to him. This is what I want to get into. This, you know what I mean? Like, the first part is otherworldly. Like, I'm very angry at Charlie Kirk because he's part of the KKK. He's a racist. And Candace Owens, she's a white supremacist. And they go up and they say, Fleckis will go up and say, what did they say? This sounds terrible. This sounds like a really bad guy. What did he say? Well, I just, my friends told me that, he's a bad guy. Okay, so you yourself do not know, is what you're saying. You're going on the word of the crowd that you hang out with. Well, congratulations. You are now a religious person. You make the same mistake that a large swath of Christian people do. And again, I don't want to make it sound like it's like I used to word this particular concern of mine as if it was most of Christianity. But the fact is, like, now that I've had, a number of years to think about it, the truth is I don't know. I don't know what percentage of Christian people behave like that. But I do know that it is a percentage. I know that if you put them all in one spot, it would be a lot of damn people, I'll tell you that much. And this is exactly the same kind of behavior. It's like, why are you a Christian? Well, because I went to this thing where this guy was talking, and he said that if I didn't do what he said, I was gonna go to some place called hell, and it sounded really bad, so I said these magic words. He said it was the sinner's prayer. He walked me through the Roman road. It's the exact same thing. It's like, well, what did Charlie Kirk say? This Charlie Kirk sounds like a real piece of shit, man. What did the guy say? Well, I don't know. My friends told me. Wow. So you're going to sit there, you are going to take your Friday night or whatever, you're going to take your evening and you're going to get all wound up in anger to the point of violence. And you have no idea what it is that you're angry about. That is a very spiritual, like that person, whoever that person is under a spiritual influence. Do you understand that? Like, you can sit there and say, oh, Pete, here comes the spirituality. It's like, then what do you call it? If not demonic. What do you call that when that happens? Stupidity? Okay, but that's stupidity on a whole different level. That is stupidity that puts people in danger. What do you call that? Can we not give it a name? Can we not say, now listen, this is something that people for thousands of years have been writing about, and whenever they did, they said it was like a being that was spiritual in nature, moved through the air like smoke. Demons do that. Now look, there's another thing here too, and Owen Benjamin touched on this in, I think it was yesterday's podcast, which, by the way, man, Owen Benjamin is on a tear. I recommend that you watch. He does live streams every day, but then they go to his other show. If if you miss the live stream, you can watch it. But he's been on a real run, and he was bringing up Saul Alinsky, and this is another thing that I wanted to talk about, and this ties in not just to these knuckleheads that Fleckus goes and interviews. Which, and I'm not knocking you, Austin Fletcher. Like, I really appreciate your work. It really helps me, and since it helps me, I know it helps a lot of other people to see like what we're truly up against. We are truly up against people who are not only very angry to the point of violence, but also they have no idea what they're angry about. They cannot articulate it. And one last point on the Fleckus video. If you watch it, there's a guy standing there saying, he's got a sign that says La Raza, and then something about, migrants and freedom and Nazis or whatever it is. Do you know what La Raza means in Spanish? Think about it, right? Well, you know what la means, right? It means the. What does raza sound like? If you were looking at old Italian, Latin language, like, what do you think raza? Raza. What does that sound like? It literally means race. The race. Right? Now, what if a bunch of white people were standing around with a sign that said, the race, we have to, something immigrants? You'd be like, oh, those are literal white supremacists. And nobody says anything if it's written in Spanish. White supremacists, oh God forgive me for putting this out into the ether. If white supremacists really wanted, because there are actual white supremacists in the world, like if they really wanted to get one over on these bedwetting liberals, like all they would have to do is have their little Nazi whatever, marches, and just on their little billboards, instead of writing, white power or, the white race or whatever, they could just write La Raza, because it literally, right? Because it's literal, it's literature. It literally means the same thing, the race. People, no, these are not two dicks. For those of you listening on the podcast, I'm taking both of my index fingers and poking them together, as in, hey, make the connection. Or you could say, this is what two gay dudes look like. Sorry. By the way, before I go any further, in honor of Megyn Kelly, this podcast is being brought to you in whiteface. Rules for radicals. I want to talk about this. There was a guy named Saul Alinsky, and he wrote a book in 1971 called The 12 Rules for Radicals, or Rules for Radicals. 1971 is a 1971 book by community activist and writer Saul Alinsky. Now, again, dear atheists, hang out. All right, there's a thing called demonology. I do not recommend that you dive into it. Unless you have a very well practiced and very well disciplined prayer life, a life that is spent dedicated to seeking out the heart of God and following Jesus Christ. I strongly recommend that you stay away from studying demonology. But demonology is again, one of the sort of constant threads in human literature. It goes all the way back. And there's been some Catholics, some very strong Christian people that have written volumes of books on it. There's a guy living right now who's he was 20 or 30 years on the New York Police Department, and he is an actual exorcist. And the Catholics still have exorcists, by the way. Every what are those hubs of the church in every city called? Whatever. Like the corporate headquarters for the Catholic Church in every city. Every one of those places has an exorcist assigned to them. It's like that's a thing that still happens. And this guy, and forgive me for not remembering his name and having it pulled up, but he's a demonologist. He's an exorcist. He's a Christian. He loves Jesus, and he's a Catholic, and whatever. Demonology is a very real thing, and when I talk about it, this has been a particular point of interest for me, especially over the last 6 or 7 years, is looking into this and how it all ties into this temporal world that we live in, and trying to figure out easier ways to spot it. And one thing is like you can spot demonic activity by the language that people use. That's one of the easiest ways. Like probably the easiest way to spot like when a demon is taking somebody over is like in the case of like a crystal meth addict, right? Somebody who's just cooked their brain with chemicals, right? It makes it so that they walk around just like babbling nonsense or whatever. It's like that's demonic, and you can sit there and say, well, no, Pete, that's chemical, and I would say, yes, exactly, it's demonic. You know what I mean? You can't take the chemical out of it. You can't take, what I mean? That's like saying like when somebody's laughing, and I would say, well, that's a joyous spirit. That's a spirit of joy. A spirit of laughter. You would say, oh no, Pete, that's chemical. And I would say, yes, that's right. It's all, you know what I mean? It's all metaphysical. So anyways, Saul Alinsky, he writes this book. Now I've said this before, you guys remember I've said this a number of times, that the most dangerous kind of person is somebody who is seeking power, right? You were made in the image of God, and therefore you have access to the power of the throne. You have been engrafted into the vine. You have the power, right? If you seek power, that means that you do not see yourself as being part of the royal family. You don't see yourself as being a partaker in the power that you've been engrafted into. You see what I'm saying? It goes back to that story of Lucifer, who, by the way, the Rules for Radicals that Saul Alinsky wrote, he literally dedicated it to Satan. Right? This is a very powerful book this guy wrote. Barack Obama was a huge fan and co-worker with Saul Alinsky. Hillary Clinton did her university thesis on Rules for Radicals. Right? It's a very powerful book, and the very first rule for radicals goes like this. Power is not only what you have, but what the enemy thinks you have. Right? Rule number 1, power. We seek power. That's rule number 1. And you can hear leftists say, well, he dedicated his book to Satan as a joke. Why is that funny? Why is it that the language of these 12 rules fully and in every way line up with every other demonic ideology or demonology? Why does it line up perfectly with everything else that there's people who write books on how to access demonic power? There's volumes and volumes of those too. I was just a second ago, I was talking about people who write demonology books about how to identify demonic activity and how to fight it, and those sorts of things. There's other people who write books on how to use that power, right? Saul Alinsky wrote that same book, and the language is the exact same. Number one, power is what we're after. And you go back to the, if you want to call it mythology, if you can call it whatever you want, but you go back into the biblical story of how Lucifer was cast down out of heaven and renamed Satan, or Hazatan, which, that word Hazatan or Satan, it literally means adversary. Your enemy is what that means. Your enemy. And Lucifer was he was called the morning star. And he was the chief musician in heaven. He was the most highest ranking angel of all, whatever you want to call it, angelic beings or otherworldly beings. He had the most power. And what was it that he got cast out of heaven for? Follow me on this, please. This is why I keep saying, the most dangerous person is somebody who seeks power. Here's Lucifer. He had all the power. And what did he get kicked out of heaven for? Seeking power. Right? He's the most powerful. He's in charge of everything. He's the most powerful being, out of all of created beings. And yet he was seeking power. And therefore he was cast down. Rule number 1 in the 12 rules of radicals starts off this way. Power is not only what you have, but what the enemy thinks you have. Meaning the idea here is, if you want to gain more power, you have to give your enemy a false idea of how much power you truly have. Number 2, never go outside the expertise of your own people. Number 5. Now this is they're all demonic, and I could break down all of them for you, but I'm just going to get to this one. Number 5. Ridicule is man's most potent weapon. And there's a whole chapter that Saul Alinsky writes about that. Ridicule is man's most potent weapon. Right? What is Satan's name? What does it mean? It means the accuser. I'm here to accuse you. Rule number 5, ridicule is man's most potent weapon. To ridicule people. Because people who are not named Pete Dobson, have a very weird response to ridicule. I no longer have this response. You can call me whatever you want. You can accuse me of anything you want. You can even accuse me of things that I've even done. And it won't affect me. You can call me a racist. You can call me a white supremacist. You can call me a bigot. You can call me, I don't know, a Nazi. It's like, dude, you've completely worn out those words. You have completely removed the power of those words by overusing them. You've cried wolf, and now it's like, well, it doesn't. You're just some person who has no idea what you believe. Therefore, your words mean nothing. And what are you going to do? You're going to take my money away from me? You're going to try to take away my ability to feed my family and myself? Good luck. Good luck. What power do you think you have over me by ridiculing me? You have none. There's nothing you can do to me. Because I don't seek power. My power comes from my Father. It's not mine. You can't take it away from me. And the last guy who tried to take that power got thrown down to the earth like a lightning bolt, like Zeus. Ridicule. This is the demonic thing. Ridicule is man's most potent weapon. And look at Megyn Kelly. Now keep in mind, I don't care about Megyn Kelly at all. If it weren't for the fact that she got, fired from Fox, or she transferred from Fox, like, I would not have, I don't think I knew who she was, because I don't watch Fox. Dude, when I watch the news, it's like I have to watch it on YouTube. I watch Tucker Carlson or whoever it is that I watch on YouTube. I don't have cable news where I'm at. I didn't know who Megyn Kelly was until she moved over to where, MSNBC or whatever. So believe me, as I go into this, I don't care about Megyn Kelly whatsoever. But look at what this thing is. She made some comment about wearing blackface for Halloween, right? Which, granted, blackface is like one of those things, like, yeah, you don't do that, and you also don't say the N-word, you also, don't call people with special needs, don't call them retarded. Like, there's certain things that we've come to where it's like, yeah, we just don't do that. But she just made a comment about blackface, and all of a sudden she's getting fired. And they made her go on TV and apologize, and she did it. Oh, I'm sorry that I mentioned blackface in a positive light. Oh, I'm sorry. Lady, did you think by apologizing that you were going to get to keep your job? Why did you apologize? Did you actually wear blackface? Did you drop N-bombs? Like, what happened? Did you get drunk on national television? Make an ass out of yourself? Like Joe, who is that guy? The old quarterback for the New York Jets. Joe, oh shoot, you guys know who I'm talking about. Remember that time he got drunk on TV? And he was like he was talking to that lady, and he's like, "You're cute, I want to kiss you." Which by itself was completely harmless. And then they made him, go on TV and apologize. It's like, Joe, you're a superstar. Like, don't, just come out and be like, come on, I got drunk and said some things I regret. Who hasn't done that? But Megyn Kelly's getting fired, and what's funny about this? This is hilarious. All right, now keep in mind, quote, ridicule is man's most potent weapon. Well, it is if you give a shit about people. It is if your whole life is based on what other people think of you. Like a politician or a television star. Your whole life is a narcissistic nightmare. Your whole life is trying to get people, look at me, look how pretty I am, look how smart I am, look how well I can talk. Sweetheart, those days are numbered. Cable news is dying quickly. Cable news is going the way of the buffalo. If you just would have stood up for yourself, you could have gone and started like Dave Rubin and just gone and started your own YouTube channel, made a bunch of, made a decent living that way. But it's like, well, now you're weak. Now you've exposed yourself as being somebody who has given your power away to these demons. And what's hilarious about this, wait for it. The funniest part of this whole story with Megyn Kelly, it's like, but her employer now has to honor her contract, which is worth like $80 million or $60 million. It's tens of millions of dollars that they have to cut her a check for. That's hilarious. Like, she's going to be fired, but she's going to be given a gigantic golden parachute, and her feet will never touch the ground. In these people, in their false virtue, they now have to crap out tens of millions. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos or whoever. If you have to part with $60 million overnight because of a decision that you yourself made, a decision where it's like, I'm going to make this decision, and then I'm going to have to take this $60 million right here and give it to somebody else, and I will never see that money again. I'm not investing it, right? I'm not putting in this $60 million into something where I'm going to get a return on it later. It's no, I'm taking this $60 million and I'm lighting it on fire, and I'll never see it again. So congratulations, MSNBC or whoever it is that was employing Megyn Kelly. It's like in your virtuousness, you just had to lay out tens of millions of dollars. You think you hurt that lady in that sense? What, so now she's not going to be able to be on TV anymore? Who cares? She's paid, son, thanks to your false virtue. Ridicule. It's man's most potent weapon. Do not be susceptible to ridicule. Know what you know. You know what I mean? Like, this is what I was talking about. You guys that were listening to the show the other day, I had a friend of mine on. And he came very close to walking into that whole, like, well, what about the Crusades? Because I've made this point many times. It's like, oh, please, God, let somebody confront me about the Crusades. Oh, I didn't do it because Mike is my friend. Like, he's my dear friend. He and I and two other dudes, we all joined the Marine Corps together, so I'm not going to shit all over him while he's on my show. He's my friend. I'm not going to, like, do things to embarrass him. But the thing is, like, you get into it with me, dear atheist. What about the Crusades? What about the Crusades? Oh, you mean that time that the Christian people in England just simultaneously all just lost their shit and they went down to, you know, the Middle East and just to the peaceful hippy dippy Burning Man party that was, you know, the Islamic culture at the time, and they just started slaying, you know, Emmer effers? Those Crusades? Is that what you mean? The way that the Crusades has been explained to you, like Christians just went nuts and just started killing all these peaceful Muslims. Is that what you believe the Crusades were? Please get into the Crusades with me. Ridicule doesn't work on me. You know what I mean? You want to write me and talk shit, you go right on ahead. You know what does work on me though? Like if you write to me and you have, you know, criticisms, because look, man, I'm gonna say dumb stuff a lot, right? I've lost Christian support because I cuss sometimes. Like, that's a real thing. You know what I mean? I've lost, you know, Patreon members. I've lost listeners because I cuss, and at the same time, you know, I sit here and say that I'm a Christian. If you want to write into me and criticize me, be like, hey man, I feel such and such a way about you cussing. It's like, okay, that's fair. I'll discuss that with you, right? But what's funny is that, like, when atheists will write me, or people who I know for a fact don't have any interest in the things of God or the kingdom of God, they'll write me and be like, why are you calling yourself a Christian? It's like, dude, that doesn't work. That doesn't work on me. Mostly because of the amount of ridicule that I've received from Christians, that's the worst kind. When your own people are turning on you. It's like, dude, I've been through all that. You're going to have to wake up a whole lot earlier in the morning if you're going to try to get that one over on me. Ridicule. These are demonic strategies. From a man who these people, George Soros, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, like, they have no problem telling you, like, everything that we do, this is all out of Saul Alinsky's book. A book that was dedicated to Satan. That's so funny. He dedicated his book to Satan as a joke. That's so funny. Why would that be funny? Why is that funny? Please explain, give me a breakdown of the humor of, the fact that this guy writes this book and dedicates it to Satan, and also every one of his rules is straight out of every other demonic book that's out there, a book on how to wield demonic powers. You think it's funny? You think these are fun and games? Like, there's demonic stuff going on right here, and getting to the bombs, right? Now look, the fact is, we, at this point, all these mail bombs, we don't know nobody knows anything yet. So let me start off by saying that. Nobody knows anything. We don't know anything. The Secret Service and the FBI, they still have lots of investigating to do, and probably by the time the truth is known, it won't come out. It won't come out in the news cycle. It will be old news, and it will be after the November 6th, votes. So chances are we're not going to hear very much more about this story. So number one, let me start off by saying I do not condone violence. I don't condone it. There are certainly times where it is justified, but even in justified times, it's like I still don't, I don't look at violence and think, yeah, I'm for that. Right? I don't condone violence, especially when it's violence against people who are just simply disagreeing with you. Right? Like if you're protecting your own life, even in that, it's like, yeah, I don't condone violence. However, I can see it. I can justify it. And I can justify the fact that our society has justified it with our laws and our procedures and that sort of thing. I don't condone violence. But that being said, there are some things about these mail bombs that's awfully, awfully fishy. Now, Liberal Sam, I haven't heard from this guy in weeks, but he writes me and he's like, please tell me you're not joining in on the conspiracy theory on these bombs. And I just wrote him back. By the way, I had just woken up. I hadn't had any coffee. And I get this message from him, and I just immediately responded back. I'm like, you mean so you don't think anything's weird about this? You don't find it weird that there's no cancellation stamps on the postage stamps? You don't think it's weird that all of these bombs arrived at their destination on the same day? You don't find it weird that not a single one of these supposed explosive devices exploded? You don't think it's weird that, given the weight of these explosive devices that we can see in the picture, that, we have to assume that they have a weight to them, right? And that the amount of postage stamps on the envelopes would not match the required amount of money that you would need to send something that weighed that much. You don't see anything wrong with this. You don't have any questions. Okay. Now again, we don't know. We don't know. But it was just yesterday or 2 days ago that I was saying, be looking for the November surprise. What was it 3 days ago? There's a massive caravan of people coming up from the south. And what is it today? Oh, the Democrats are like, look at how evil Republicans are sending us these bombs. I wrote to Sam, you don't find it strange that Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, came out and said he received a bomb, and the New York Police Department said, we know nothing about this. This is the first that we've heard of it. He lied. You don't see anything, nothing smells fishy to you? There's nothing out of place here for you. Okay. It's very strange. Rule number 7, a tactic that drags on too long becomes a drag, which means change up your tactics. This is the demonic plan of the 24-hour news cycle. 2 days ago, it was a caravan. Today, it's people sending bombs in the mail. A week ago, it was, I don't know what it was, Stormy Daniels. And a week before that, it was Brett Kavanaugh being accused of rape. And the week before that, it was something else. And the week before that, it was Russian collusion. And Donald Trump is going to start World War III. And this and that. And just a tactic that drags on too long becomes a drag. That's a demonic, keeping you distracted is a demonic strategy. And keep in mind, every single one of these professes and commodifies weakness. This is what demons are. They are weak. They are a weakening agent. What they have for you is to make you weak, because that's what they are. That's what they have to sell. It is their merchandise. It's, here's another one. There's a number of them, but I'll go with number 13 here. Pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, and polarize it. Well, I could. Here, I'll just, let me go. Rule number 1: power is not only what you have, but what the enemy thinks you have. Never go outside of the expertise of your own people. Number 3: whenever possible, go outside of the expertise of the enemy. Meaning, don't use their expertise. Make the enemy live up to its own book of rules. Make the enemy live up to its own book of rules. Number 5, ridicule is man's most potent weapon. Number 6, a good tactic is one that your people enjoy. That's another one. Like, keep the people excited. Keep them excited. A good tactic is one that keeps is one that your people enjoy. Those people that were out there protesting Charlie Kirk, they were receiving a rush. Yeah, Charlie Kirk's a white supremacist, and so is dark-skinned black lady Candace Owens. She's a white supremacist. They get a rush from that. It makes them feel alive. A good tactic is one that your people enjoy. They're enjoying it. And then here comes Austin Fletcher saying, hey, so what do you believe? I don't know. My friends just told me, and I feel really good about being here because I feel like I'm part of something. A tactic that drags on too long becomes a drag. Number 8, keep the pressure on. Number 9, the threat is usually more terrifying than the thing itself. These bombs, not a single one of them went off. Now there's things in the news that are leading people to believe that they weren't bombs at all. They're just scary looking devices. The threat is more scary than the thing itself. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Like, these are demonic strategies that are being implemented by people who have absolutely no problem telling you that we read this demonic book that was dedicated to Satan by Saul Alinsky, by the author. We have absolutely no problem telling you we love this man and his work, and we are employing the things that he told us to do. It's demonic. Do you understand? And when people say, like, if you ask them, like, why did Saul Alinsky dedicate his book to Satan or to Lucifer? It was one of those two. Actually, here, hold on one second. Let me just make sure I'm not misquoting that here. Saul Alinsky dedicates book to Satan. Well, Snopes says mostly false, so let me... Saul Alinsky made a literary allusion to Lucifer as the first radical known to man in an epigraph to his book, Rules for Radicals, but he did not dedicate the book to Lucifer. Okay, then yes, he did, right? Saul Alinsky wrote an epigraph describing the rebellious angel Lucifer as the first radical known to man in his book, Rules for Radicals. Right? So, yeah. Here, let me read this. On the 19th of July of 2016, former presidential candidate Ben Carson gave a speech before the Republican National Convention in which he claimed that the book Rules for Radicals author Saul Alinsky, who he said is greatly admired by Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton, acknowledged Lucifer on the dedication of his book. But while it's true that one of 3 epigraphs on the introductory page, not a dedication page, of Rules for Radical characterizes Lucifer as the first radical known to man who rebelled against the establishment. Okay. All right. The book is neither dedicated. Okay, so yeah, he didn't write the words, here I dedicate this book to Lucifer, but he's saying, like, this book, well, let's see. Here. This is what Saul Alinsky wrote. Lest we forget at least an over-the-shoulder acknowledgement to the very first radical. From all our legends, mythology, and history, And who is to know where mythology leaves off and history begins, or which is which? The first radical known to man who rebelled against the establishment and did it so effectively that he at least won his own kingdom, Lucifer. So in a book titled Rules for Radicals, he cites Lucifer in that way. Sure, he did not write the words, "Here, I dedicate this book to Lucifer." But that sounds like a pretty ringing endorsement. That's the book that's this playbook that these people are running out of. That's what that guy had to write about it. That's what was in his mind, is rules for radicals, and who is the prince of all radicals. The first person that we can find in world history or myth, but who knows which one is which, or where it starts, or where it ends. But wherever mythology or history begins, it begins with Lucifer, the first radical, in a book called Rules for Radicals. Nothing to see here, folks. Oh, he was just joking. Very funny. That's hilarious. That's brilliant comedy writing there. That's what we're up against. This is what satanic, demonic activity looks like, and it's played out when you go on to Fleckus Talks and you watch that video of these people who are so full of energy and so full of indignation. And they're all together and they're feeling something. Finally, they're out of their mother's basement and they're feeling like, ooh, this is this power that I have as a human being. This feels good. This feels right. And here comes this weird-looking guy with a big beard named Austin Fletcher, sticks the microphone in your hands and says, okay, well, what are you so upset about? Well, I'm upset about Charlie Kirk. He's a racist. Ooh, sounds bad. I don't like racists either. What did he say? What were his words that he said? Well, I don't know. My friends told me. That's demonic. And that's the world that we're living in. And you get to be a part of the generation that is going to be able to say that I remember in those times. You see. You get to be that person 10 years, 20 years from now, 30, 50 years from now, talking to your grandkids, saying, I remember the time that the demons became so confident that they walked out right out in the open, right out in the sunlight for everybody to see. And we beat them. I was there when Christianity was on the edge. When Christianity was dying out because the people got too lazy and too comfortable and too secure that they forgot their God. But because the demons started making themselves so apparent that the Christian people remembered, no, I am from the Lord. I am a child of the kingdom and I will follow after Jesus and I will be proud of it. And there's nothing that you can do to ridicule me. Your ideas are not better than mine. Your resolve is not stronger than mine. And you will be able to tell your children, I lived in those times. And here's what it was like. There were children on college campuses saying that this person is this and this person is that. But when you did the simple act of just asking them, okay, well, tell me what was said. Tell me what this evil man said. That the demons would run back in and the other demons would flock to that demon and say, don't talk to him. You'll be exposed in the light. Right? Document these things in your mind. Write it down. You're going to have stories years from now about the days when the demons walked out right out in the open. When Democrats would use any tactic that they could because they have wholesale resigned themselves to the writings of a satanic madman. George Soros is paying for those people to come up from Honduras. That is demonic. That's demonic what he's doing. And where does he get these ideas from? George Soros has made it clear he wants to destabilize the United States. He hates America. Right? Why? Because in God we trust. Right? Satan hates God. Satan is dangerous because he seeks power. That's why he gets cast down. It's because he seeks power. You do not need to seek power. You already have it. You've been made in the very image of the Almighty God. You are more than sufficiently powerful. There's nothing you need to do. There's nothing you need to do to seek it. You already have it. It's the people that seek power that work for the agents of darkness. That's what Satan was expelled from heaven for. For being powerful and yet not being aware of it, and for seeking power out, for trying to take power from somebody else. That's what these people have, and that's the power of ridicule. That's why ridicule is like what he's saying in Rules for Radicals is, ridicule, number 5, ridicule is man's most potent weapon. Yeah, it is on people who are concerned, who don't know that they have power. It is if you seek power, but come at me, bro. What do you have to say? What are you going to say to me? You can't take my power away. My power is not my own. My power was given to me. It's mine. You can't have it. There's nothing you can say to ridicule me. There's nothing that you can say that's going to concern me about what you think about me. There's nothing you can do. Well, what if you lose Patreon supporters? Son of a bitch, when I started this podcast, I didn't even have a Patreon account. I started from nothing. There's nothing you can take away from me. Do you understand that? That's the confidence. You have to be confident. You have to know that you are powerful. And stay in that power and be protected by that power because it comes from on high. Demonic forces seek power and seek to take it away from other people by using ridicule, by using insults. You're a science denier. There's 56 genders. That's demonic. It's deceptive. It catches people off guard. It's disorienting. It's confusing. Those are demonic weapons. Stay away from them. And know that you have been engrafted into the vine. You have been adopted into the royal family. Right? The shed blood of God has covered you. And the power that you have within you now, it comes from the same person who spoke the universe into existence. And your power was given to you uniquely. Everything that you have is unique to you. And you don't need other people's power. You have your own, and it's your gift from the giver, from the power source. You understand? I hope some of that made sense. Anyways, hey, if you do want to support me on Patreon and not cancel out, you can go on to archadvocate.com. arch-advocate.com. If you want to become a Patreon member, a couple of bucks a month, whatever. If you want to just throw me some dough, like on a one-time thing, PayPal, brother. archadvocate.com. Looks like we have made it till Friday, so baby's coming any second now, like literally any second. I don't mean any minute or any day, I mean any second. So hopefully we'll have that baby over the weekend and I'll have some good news for you Monday morning. Otherwise, yeah, I'll talk to you then. You guys have a good weekend. God bless you all. Remember, you already have the power and no one can take it from you. I'll leave you with that. Till Monday.